Hey guys, James Howell here. I'm making this video for folks that might be on the fence about getting the new iPad 9th generation. I have a little story to tell, and I thought I'd mention it on YouTube here and just help some folks out in case you're one of those people that's wondering if that's the right iPad for you. I started my iPad life back in 2012, I think it was. I bought an iPad 3. And I love that iPad 3. I mean, that was my first taste of iPad. And it was a great iPad. It was the first one with the high-res Retina display. And in retrospect, I wish I would have waited for the 4 because the iPad 3 was kind of rushed out the door. It had that great Retina display, which really caught my eye, made it so fun to use. But it was a little underpowered because he tried to push it out before the processor actually was up to speed for that display. But getting back to the crux of this video, I have an iPad 9th generation. That's what I'm actually filming this on right now. This device is almost perfect. And I would go as far as to say that this is the best device I believe that was ever made for iPads. Now, this design of the iPad 9th generation is basically an iPad Air 1, an iPad Air basically, is what the design is. It's got the same thickness, it's got the type of display. They went forward with an iPad Air 2, which was a gorgeous device. I actually bought myself an iPad Air 3 about 3 years ago. And that is just an awesome piece of technology. I mean, but it has some problems, and I want to get into that here to talk to you guys about this. They've gone, like to the iPad Pros and the iPad Air. They've gone to the squared design. They've gone to these square, hard-edge designs for the phones, the iPhones. That design, to me, is not the right direction. I mean, I believe with Johnny Ives, and he sort of spun off from Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs got Johnny Ives on the right track to, those two designed these things to be super comfortable, smooth, sophisticated. That's why I feel that the designs of the early iPads and the early iPhones to be the best designs they've ever made. My last iPhone I had was an iPhone 8 Plus. Again, big display, about as big as an iPhone 14 Plus, or a Max, but more comfortable, smooth, a lot lighter. Nowadays, the iPhones, they're putting huge magnets in it for the MagSafe. They're making the edges sharp. The phone is 60 grams practically heavier than the old iPhone 8 Plus. It's just not what customers are going to want. I mean, they're uncomfortable. They're hard to hold. They're clunky in your pocket. Again, I got off track there a little bit. I'll get back to the iPad. My feelings are the same for the iPad, though. This new design, the square shape, it was done just to do something different. It's not better. So if you go out to look, take a close look at the iPad 9th generation. I believe it's the best one you can get. Sure, it's not a laminated display, but getting to that laminated display, let's get back to that. Remember I said that the iPad 1 was like the iPad 9th generation. Well, the iPad 2 and the iPad 3, they made the whole thing super thin by laminating it. That's part of the reason. But if you look on the internet, you'll find stories of people actually struggling with having problems with those displays. And I had one with my iPad 3. If they have videos where these guys would push on the back of the device, and you could actually see their fingers coming through on the front of the display. It was just too thin. I don't fault Apple for trying to push the boundaries, because you got to do that, but I think they realized that was too far. And if you notice, the iPad Air 3 body was going to be used for the iPad 9th generation, or 10th generation, I should say. And a lot of people thought that might happen. Probably, I'm guessing Apple didn't want to keep using that design, though, because there was a lot of problems with it. With my iPad Air 3, which was laminated, and a lot almost identical to the iPad Air 2, I had what was called bruising of the display, and I never dropped the device, never abused it. So what happened was, probably when I cleaned it, maybe you just put any pressure on it all and it could cause a problem. The reason I say I'm almost sure it was a defect is because the bruising, which was a little white spot on the display, was right above the home button. And on the internet they said several people were saying that's where you're going to get your bruising is above the home button. So obviously there was something under the display that was getting pushed. It was damaging the display with just the slightest force. So anyhow, I guess what I'm saying is the iPad Air 1 was a perfect design, super slim, so comfortable to hold. That's the one you want. And that's what the iPad Air 9th generation is. So I would get a hold of one of these if I was you. I mean, I grabbed one. This one's a 256 gigabytes because the files are getting chunky and the iOS is getting more demanding. And so I think that's the best one to go with. I do wish it had 4 gigs of RAM because I don't want to get cut off on the iOSs down the road, but Apple tends to be able to go farther with less RAM. So I just want to put this out there. If you're looking and thinking about the iPad 9th generation, I think it's even better than the 10th generation. Some people like myself, I'm kind of a, I can feel the magnetic fields, and I actually get a little nauseated around the iPad Pros and the newer iPads. Even the MagSafe in the iPhone makes me feel a little weird. Those are super, super high powered magnets. So, and they're sharp edged. They're heavy. They're just not as comfortable. I could hold this iPad all day long. So, like I say, maybe get out there and get a hold of one. They might stop making these guys, and I do hope Apple turns the corner and starts going back to those soft edge designs that are a little thinner than what they have now. I'm not as thin as the iPad Air 2, but also just a more comfortable, ergonomic, and more modern looking design. The way I look at it, the smooth edge, harder to manufacture. Not the square edge ones are just that. They're square edge, but they're not more comfortable. They're not more modern. So like I say, and don't worry about the laminated display thing. The non-laminated display, it's not quite as good. I wish they would have put a little bit of a anti-glare coating, but it's still beautiful. If you go to the Apple Store, pick one up, look at it, go look at an OLED, and then go look at the iPad 9th generation. It looks just as good. In fact, sometimes it looks better. The color accuracy is more spot on, and it's clear as a bell. So I don't think there's much you're going to lose by not getting a hold of it's true. There's mini LED in the new iPads. I don't discount the new iPad's display, but I just don't think you have to go with that because you have to get the clunky, sharp edge design to get it. And I don't mean to disparage people that already have them because I know some people use them and love them. But the 9th generation, that's my guy, and I think you should grab one yourself. So thanks for listening to my rant, and I hope that you get a hold of one because they might not be around for long. Catch you later, guys.